So this one is good old Just Strife Haze. You know what? Why don't I just kind of go in blind and see how I feel?
I was what I'll call MMO Doomscrolling. I was downloading all of them, logging in for about 10 minutes, running around and logging out. You know, kind of like how you just scroll through Twitter or Instagram or whatever. Yeah. I was going to say Facebook, but I nearly aged myself then because no one doom scrolls through Facebook anymore. I'm learning that Facebook is an old person thing, and I'm slowly migrating over to only Twitter and Instagram. And
it's funny because I had just skipped that section of social media entirely.
So you say OnlyFans then?
OnlyFans. Oh no, that's for next year. Don't worry, we've got plans for that.
That's for the next adpocalypse, that is.
But when I was kind of MMO doom scrolling, logging in, running around, logging out, I thought to myself, this would be so much more fun if I had some friends to play with. So I contacted some guys and said, hey, come and play some games with me. And they went, oh, should we play World of Warcraft? And I went, it would take you ages to get to where I am, or you'd have to buy Boost.
True.
Should we play Final Fantasy? Same thing, I'd have to start a new character, and the first start is slow, and you don't get to work together until we get the first Sastasha, the dungeon.
True.
Eventually came to the realization that there are not that many MMORPGs that allow me casually, as a higher level player, to just jump in, almost like couch co-op style, with a friend immediately. Those kind of games are much more multiplayer RPGs, or kind of like co-op games. Guild Wars 2, Elder Scrolls Online, and Guild Wars 1 are fantastic at it. Guild Wars 2, whenever someone says to me, hey, let's play an MMORPG, Guild Wars 2 is the first one I suggest, because I know that I can just go back to their area and we can play together straight away. Do you think maybe, and I would like this?
City of Heroes was good at this, right? They have the mentor and mentee system, so you, as the lower level player, could scale up to your higher level friend level, and you wouldn't get all of your character's power either. You wouldn't unlock your skills or anything. You just scaled your numbers up, so you wouldn't get one shot and die. You could actually contribute. And then the mentee system let the higher level player scale down to your level as well, and then they could jump into your missions, help out. They're appreciably scaled down, so they're not destroying the content for you. And if they do that, not only did they get to play with you, but the reward was scaled up to their true level. So you could go with your level 20 friend at level 40, scale down to level 20, complete the level 20 quest, and you'd get a level 40 equivalent of experience and money, whatever the quest reward was. So I think I'm agreeing here.
I think maybe we're going to see more multiplayer RPGs that aren't necessarily MMOs that divide people by level.
I think there's two ways to solve this. One of them is, as you've said, not dividing, like just throw levels out, that would solve it.
No, that would not solve the problem. If you take levels out of your MMORPG and there's no other form of progression, right? You could say it's levelless, and then you have a panel of skills that you have to level up or increase. So that's not really right. You throw levels out, it's not an RPG anymore. You're playing Overwatch. You're playing like a lobby game at that point with no form of progression, and that's nothing wrong with those kind of games, but you're not an MMORPG anymore.
Problem. But again, bringing it back to RuneScape, you can go and play with people of vastly different levels.
But can you do anything meaningful with them? Because I thought about this when I have friends who come and join me in RuneScape, and I'm 50 levels higher than them in every stat. Is there anything meaningful I can do with them?
I would say so. I mean, every time I've hopped into RuneScape to just play with some friends, even if we're like 30 levels different, we'll go do some bandos. Get some stuff.
What if they can't even get there? That's the problem. That's where I'm looking, where they're like level 10 or 20 and everything.
Yeah. Okay, in that case, yes, there's nothing combat you can do together. You can go skilling together. Like, there is always something to do. There's mini games that you can do. Like, you can go do Castle Wars, and they can be, caving in the mines and stuff while you're defending them. You need to give players enough reason or enough what's the
it's carrot and the stick, the driving force to do it.
Yeah, don't just give them one number that defines the player, because in
oh, that's a really good point too. I think a lot of times games balance themselves into everything being generic. World of Warcraft's going through this right now, actually. They're de-pruning, re-adding abilities they've removed, re-adding talent systems they've removed. But when you get to that really simplified thing, and it's like, imagine your character, you don't have any stats, you're just a level and maybe a class, a level and a class, and that's it. Like, there's no game left at that point, right?
WoW, yes, your professions really only help you, but you've got your level, and that...
Your professions in WoW do not only help you. I get the sense that this guy is the type of guy on the right here. I think his name is Callum. I feel like he is the guy who never puts any thought into any of his characters. He strikes me as the do whatever the guide said. Like, guides are fine if you're brand new to something, but
defines the sort of player level you can play with.
And this is why, as I've become more accustomed to this, level scaling, and especially downscaling higher level players to lower level players to allow teams to kind of work together, has started to appeal much more to me, because I've understood the benefits to the casual player base as opposed to just the hardcore player base. And I made a video many years ago saying level scaling was bad, and I approached it from the idea of level scaling the enemies down to the player is bad, because the player never feels any sense of progression, because they never take on a ridiculously tough enemy that becomes an easy enemy to them in a few weeks' time because they've leveled up. But
yes, so what he just said there is why I didn't really like Skyrim that much. Remember when Skyrim was like the uber popular, bestest best RPG anyone ever played? I thought it was garbage because the mobs level up with you. No matter where you go, everything you face is, I mean, they might be a level below or a level above your level, whatever your level is. In order for something to feel threatening and to have story cohesion, they have to have a relative level of power, a relative threat. And if you're just saying, well, that threat levels up with you, why level up? See, if you're thinking about it like that, I could come to the idea that, okay, remove levels. At that point, if you're scaling everything up to the player no matter where they go, there's no point in having a level system at all. You could find a different way to give them their progression of points or stats or whatever you're giving them. Leveling up an experience at that point serves no purpose. Whereas, like he's saying, scaling high-level players down. Well, that was the mentor system in City of Heroes. It's in a bunch of different games. I reference City of Heroes because that game's from 2004.
Level scaling a high player down to a low player actually does allow that difficulty to be approached by everyone. Because you know, you go to a dungeon with 2 or 3 of your mates and you're super high level and they're not, you feel kind of useless because you either kill every enemy in one hit or you don't do anything to make sure you don't kill every enemy in one hit. You want to still be given a challenge.
My opinion on this is probably going to be a very unpopular one. Anytime I see level scaling, instant turn off to me. Do not care. And the reason is, if you're giving someone a task to do based off it being meaningful, such as leveling up, if you then have to make it meaningful by removing that, and that's the only way you can do that, you've done leveling wrong. Like the initial scaling between levels is wrong. And a good example of this is, I can't remember the exact statistic from level-wise, but in World of Warcraft, a level 6 player and a level 14 player are something like 11 times more powerful or something like that. And it's just, you look at it and it's like, you're basically doubling your power in that bracket every level.
So
like, it doesn't need to be that.
If you go from level 1 to level 2, yes, you just doubled your power level. And then when you go to level 2 to level 4, you've just doubled your power level. I don't understand what he would want. So going from level 1 to level 2 should not double your power level?
Maybe it should be a case of a maximum level player should be obviously more powerful than a beginner player, but not to like a godlike degree.
Absolutely. And this is why...
No. If you're not getting to that point where you feel super powered, you don't feel the progression. And Blizzard figured this out.
That amount of gear progression is generally healthy. Like, I think certainly for people who are coming in as alts who just want to get immediately caught up, they don't want to feel far behind their mains, there's a natural desire to want to bridge that gap as quickly as possible. But as you acquire gear over the course of a tier, that's that same feeling that makes it so that, you know, a boss that where you once struggled to meet the enrage timer is something you confidently steamroll coming back, you know, a month or so later as you move on to the next challenge.
RuneScape does it really well. Levels take longer to obtain, and they are minute buffs per level. Like, you know that a level 30 and a level 40 player can have a PvP battle, and the level 30 can win based on skill.
Okay, and well, I see what he's saying, and like New World was like that for the open world PvP. But PvP's different, right? That's conflating the issue. We were just talking about PvE, and now he's saying, oh, well, you see, it's good in PvP, so it's good everywhere. I don't agree with that.
If you do that in World of Warcraft, where they're both geared appropriately, one's level 30, one's level 40, you will trash them. You'll two-shot them. This is why I like that Guild Wars.
That's also not true in every version of World of Warcraft. Retail, yes. There's numerous times in Classic, as long as you're within... 10 levels is actually the bracket, so I think at 10 levels, your target is effectively a raid boss. The battlegrounds are set up in ranges of 10 levels, so we know that scaling works. It's once you're outside of 11 levels, okay, yeah, then you'll obliterate the other player.
Wars 1 caps out at level 20, and when I went back to do some Guild Wars 1 missions with people, which is a game I love playing in my free time, I think it's a brilliant RPG, it does level some people down to the map you're on. The map itself has a maximum level, so the map may be maximum level 6. So even if you come back this map after level 6, you will fight as if you are level 6. So if your friend is like, hey, I'm level 5, but I'm trying to do this map and I'm stuck, you can't come down with your level 20 massive skill and smash everything. You can come back and help them as a level 6. And the reason I'm starting to appreciate this more is it means that my friend is here to help, not carry.
Yeah, I was just about to say, that sounds like it's anti-boost, anti-carry tech. I'm not sure that that's a design decision that was made to make things great for players. I'm pretty sure that was a design decision made to prevent what you see in World of Warcraft Classic, where you get a level 60 mage, or level 70 now, I guess, and you offer to blow up dungeons for people. They pay, low-level guys pay you gold, or probably real money transfers as well. And you just one-shot the entire dungeon for them and they gain several levels. What they're describing here would prevent that. I don't know how I feel about level-capped areas or quests or missions. Again, I think the way City of Heroes did it really well.
My friend is actually going to have to work for this still, and I'm still going to have to work for this.
Yeah, and I feel that whenever I see that an MMO has used level scaling in any capacity, it tells me that their leveling system is fundamentally broken.
True.
Because leveling...
Like if he's talking about scaling things up to the player, yes. When you see a game doing that, that's the developer being like, you know what? I cannot curate a good experience level by level anymore. I'm just going to make everything level with them.
Is the reward, right? Let's take a look at WoW. You are rewarded only when you reach maximum level. In between there, it's all meaningless. So when you reach
I would say like half the people who play WoW don't care about endgame activities or reaching max level the way that he's about to describe. A lot of people enjoy it, like questing, doing the story, they enjoy farming, they enjoy collecting stuff, they enjoy being immersed, having a headcanon in their character. Even if they're not explicitly role-playing, people just, it's part of the escapism of enjoying a video game. If you go into a video game and your thought is, how do I skip as much of the video game as possible to get to the endgame dungeon so I can pretend world first raider or whatever, I don't know, man.
Max level, and then you're downscaled to a lower level to give it meaning again, it shows that it still doesn't have meaning.
Might be Guild Wars 2 that I'm thinking of with the level scaling. I think Guild Wars 1 was you can just voluntarily remove your own skill points. Yeah, Guild Wars 2 levels you down to the map, and Guild Wars 1, when you go into a city, you can just voluntarily take your own skill points away until...
So look at this from the chat. Bad take. No, wrong. I think Callum is so wrong. Big disagree. Don't agree with that. No, leveling is the reward. Max level is also meaningless. Yeah, I feel like this guy just... I don't even know if these are really his actual beliefs or if he's just trying to spit hot takes. I feel like he's playing a role to Josh's more reasonable perspective.
You are the recommended level of whatever that area should be, which a couple of friends did, and I find it much more fun when I'm with a party that is the recommended level for the challenge ahead.
Oh, definitely. But think about it like this. Let's say if WoW did that, where they scale you back down to the zone you're in, like to the recommended level. Your incentive to get higher level than a character is to make it easier to kill that creature and be more efficient at farming the goods from it, the drops. If that reward is then automatically taken away from you, you have no incentive other than being told that you should.
Thing that we could voluntarily put players into, instead of forcing them to, we could say, do you want to do this? Do you want to try and do this as the level it should be? Do you want to scale yourself down and take on the challenge? Because World of Warcraft did it with its time-walking dungeons. The whole time-walking point was, hey, we're going to let you take on this challenge the way that you were meant to take it on, not using the power that you've gained over the last couple of years and power crest where it should be.
I think that's voluntary is a good option, but you'll notice something, that is, players won't voluntarily do it unless there is something to gain that they otherwise couldn't. Because don't forget, time walking is this really bizarre thing where you are scaled down to the dungeon, but you get max level rewards from the dungeon for the level that you weren't completing it at.
Well, why is this bizarre? What? I really don't understand why he's having trouble wrapping his head around this concept. Like, why would that be a problem? Time walking is awesome. Not only that, but in time walking, some of your things that got taken away, like your legendary items, your Heart of Azeroth powers, they work in time walking. Time walking is super fun. Yes, there are power gamers who won't do it unless there is some power reward attached. That group of players is literally the problem with World of Warcraft, and like, Shadowlands was pretty much a love letter to that type of player, and is now largely considered the worst expansion ever.
And that was the only way they can incentivize people to go back and do it. They added it because people were like, oh, we'd love to go and revisit them with meaning. And I guess
it was not the only... People constantly farm old content to collect stuff.
what they meant by that is just relive that experience. But after running it once, they realized, well, why am I doing this? Like, I've hindered my ability to clear this dungeon, and all I'm getting is the actual loot that I would have got from doing it at level 30. So
I suppose one of the parts that I'm looking at it from now is, if I want to start a new MMORPG with a friend, or have a friend come and join me in a game I've already played, my only real choice is start a new character.
I figured it out. Josh has friends and Callum doesn't, so that's why he doesn't understand.
Because if I bring my higher level character down to them, it's no fun for them. It's just everything, I steamroll everything and take the challenge out.
Yeah.
Is there a way to bring the character that you have for a long time back to them and kind of voluntarily level yourself down so it's now challenging and engaging?
But then, that does beg the question, is that a problem that needs solving? Like, if the solution...
Okay, look at Josh's face. He tried really hard to rephrase the same point in a very reasonable way. And this is great.
...is there, which is create a new character and do the appropriate level content with your brand new friend. Because let's be honest, you're probably going to go back to your max level character as soon as possible. Let's say I go back and downscale to play with you on WoW from first level. I never need to loot any of that gear, so I'm just going to funnel it all to you.
We have to take a little detour. There are a lot of reasons that someone might want to go back to the low-level area and complete old content that has no power reward with their friends or even alone. There is a very good reason you might do that. I've completed 73.5% of the quests in World of Warcraft. Only 8,000 of them are done on my main character, out of the 14,000. Why? Because first of all, there's Horde and Alliance. Some quests can only be done by one or the other, some by either. Some require a trade skill. Some require a specific race or class. Some can only be accessed by making a new character and playing the new level 1 starting experience, even if you're a veteran player like me, because there's new quests there. For some players, it's not about making your gear score go up. And don't get me wrong, I push keys, I play endgame, not saying I don't understand what it's like to play the game at a high level. Pretty sure I do. But that is not the only way to play the game, and so I think that's why this guy thinks that's the only way to play the game, and I seem to have a real... He's just getting my goat. It's really grinding my gears, he is.
Because my gear is just going to keep scaling back up to the max level.
But does that make it bad funneling it all to that other player when the other player doesn't feel they've necessarily earned it?
No, that's exactly the point. Because think about it like this. I am actually a max level player, but I've come back down to level 10 to help you out. I literally do not need that gear.
Oh, I see. As in you're the lower level, yeah. Because Final Fantasy...
Yeah.
The player who scales their level down can receive max level gear. Why wouldn't that be, or like a currency or something that they would use appropriate to a max level character?
Yeah. 14 scales you down when you do, whether it's dungeons with other people or the... what are they called? They're not flashpoints. That's in Star Trek The Old Republic. What's it called in Duties? Duties? Is that the one?
Duties, yeah.
Or you walk into it and it's like something... Fates, that was the one. Fates, thank you. I've played so many. My name is just... My brain is now being fried with all these different names. But yeah, the idea of the Fates, you walk in and it scales you down. Because an MMORPG should have challenge for every level of player and for every skill level of player. I think what we're finding is limited is a challenge that a new player and an old player can team up on and take on together and both be challenged at.
Yeah, and some help desk in my chat has just said, show damage as a percentage of enemies' total health based on your level. So a level 20 player sees higher numbers, but the lower level player sees smaller numbers. WoW did this in Pandaria, and it became really demotivating as soon as people realized this, because you now realize that your power is completely an illusion.
This part is true. He's right here. They did this again in PvP. In Battle for Azeroth, and it's so weird. Like, I get that new players don't like getting one shot, or they want to queue in and not get deleted, but like, video games have to have a lose condition or else they're not games, they're simulators.
And you now realize that looking at that XP bar fill up isn't doing anything. Like, the XP bar is detached from all the progress systems. That you are as powerful at minimum level as you are maximum level. And the moment you realize that, you're just like, you know what? Why am I even bothering?
Elder Scrolls Online does that. I think it's trying to appeal to two different styles of players. You've got the players who want to level up and then have that power be constantly available at all times forever, so they know the power I've gained is stable and permanent. And then you've got players who care less about their own permanent power and more about being at that kind of Goldilocks zone of power, that any content they take on is challenging. They're not definitely going to die, they're not definitely going to succeed, they have the skill and the power and the level recommended to take it on, which is why in several MMOs you can actually stop yourself gaining experience.
Yes, so what he's talking about, the Goldilocks zone, is the flow state. Game designers really, really work hard to try and get people into this flow state. If the game is not challenging enough, you become disengaged, right? Your brain is no longer challenged, you become bored. The game is too hard, of course, you bang your head against it, you get demotivated, you get frustrated. But if you find that nice middle zone where you can have a growth of skill and it matches the game's growth in difficulty, whether it's through, what penalties and powers you get, what tricks you have to learn mechanically speaking, all that good stuff. You can keep them in the middle band. You get the flow state. You get someone realizing they've played your game for 12 hours and where did the time go?
Can voluntarily turn off experience once you get to that kind of Goldilocks zone because you like that experience.
Yeah, I guess the fundamental problem here is They are two completely different player bases that should, unpopular opinion, but should never be crossed over. Because one's going to resent the other's opinion and they'll resent their opinion because they are two fundamentally different player types.
Okay, I feel called out here. But yes, I think that's true. Based on what we've already talked about here.
Like, I like in RuneScape that if I take on a Slayer task that's really difficult and I'm just taking so long to do it, I can go, if I'm less skilled, and out-level it by a little bit and make it slightly easier. You're basically taking away player choice. And how do you...
Yes. So the idea that, oh shit, this is too hard, I need to go get stronger and come back later. That is one key feeling people associate with RPGs, whether they're online or single player. It's really important. And it creates some great memories too, like, you see it in the chat. So like, WoW, of course, you have when you're in Red Ridge Mountains and you're doing quests to fight Blackrock orcs, and then you go a little too far north and you meet the level 50 orc and he puts you down. Or even in Burning Crusade, you're in Hellfire Peninsula just doing your quests, and then the ground shakes and you hear that telltale screeching sound, and it's the Fell Reaver, a giant demonic mech stomping around, max level. And you come back and kill the Fell Reaver when you're max level. That's a really satisfying thing, to put a level 70 mob in a level 60 area to show the player what they have to look forward to. If you scale everything, you lose that.
The kind of how do you want to approach this situation is completely removed from you. It's now, you are approaching this situation this way, you've got no choice.
I think the best way, as you said earlier, looping all the way back to the start, is the idea of transparency and the idea of knowing exactly what you're going to get and giving the player a lot of choice. Because if it's a choice that no players ever use, as in, we don't want to level ourselves down, but it affects just one or two groups of friends who want to use it, it might be a nice touch. You get a couple of friends who say, hey, you've been playing for a week, we've been playing for 10 years, let's do this dungeon. We will voluntarily level our max level characters down to your level, and we'll all go into the dungeon, so we won't kill everything in one hit. We have to actually play, and you might end up doing more damage than us, because that's how the level scaling might work. So it seems to very much be a case of put the systems in the game that the players can voluntarily use to play the game the way they want to, if they want to, but don't automatically take earned power away from them.
Yeah, and the level locking brought in a massive problem in WoW. The whole thing called Twinking, where basically there are level brackets where power starts to fall off after a certain level, but then the level bracket you're in, there's someone more powerful than you. But you're now essentially less powerful in your bracket than you were the prior level. So what people do is they will lock at the most efficient level for the content they're doing, and they will get the best possible gear for that level. And you end up with this horrible, horrible situation where you enter content that's supposed to be within a level range for you now, and you will get decimated. And then
Like, I get what he's saying, and I agree. But, like, the way that and I hate the term twinking, the way that low-level alts work in WoW is really interesting. If it rewards you for really understanding your class and where your power ebbs and flows through the level up process, it also rewards you for having a really good understanding of the gear in the game. To make some of these powered up low-level characters, you have to do some very specific things. You have to farm some very specific things. Some of the highest selling items on the auction house, like $1 million, $2 million, $5 million gold, are low-level BOEs that have a chance to roll as an epic upgrade, so higher item level, that fit these level caps, like like an item level 30 cape that you can use at level 20. I think that part of the game is really interesting, even though I don't participate in it at all. I don't think it's a problem for that to exist, although I do understand what he's saying about from a competitive sense. Like, he's talking about battlegrounds. Battlegrounds is tricky. How would you do it? Item level brackets? Are there enough players? Can you really split the player base that much, so that's a tricky one.
They'll rejiggle the level brackets of where this works. And now you're now less powerful than someone who was actually lower level than you. And it's you can't balance two systems like that.
One of the interesting ways, one of the best ways I've seen this work is leveling the player down to the map they're on, but having higher level maps be available. So, you know, you've got map 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and map 1 is designed for 1 to 10. You can level to 20 there if you want to, but your power will be capped at level 10. And then map 2 is leveled from, 10 to 20, map 3 is 20 to 30. So you need to keep getting more powerful to advance beyond the maps, to actually push through the game, but there will never be a point where you can go back to map 1 and exploit your level 60 power, but you can exploit your level 10 power, because that will be the top of it. And one of the things this does is it makes it feel that the challenges on the first map are still challenges 5 months from now.
I don't like that. I prefer to outlevel things. That's the whole point. And like they're saying, if you could do a time walking, let me choose to scale down if I want to later. That's cool too.
They're still difficult. It's always felt weird to me that the bandit leader that you meet first on the first map is then nothing compared to the bandit leader you meet on the 10th map, as if this world exists on a strange, peculiar, linear scale of power. All of the tough bandits go over to that map instead.
Do you know what the issue with that is, though? And this is an issue that every game...
Well, so if it's an MMORPG, WoW had this handled up to Cataclysm. Because Cataclysm, they decided to go update the old world, and I was a fan of this. I know some people don't like it, classic Andes, but screw you. I like flying in the old world. I liked the story and zone updates. I liked that it created a linear progression through the old world, and it made the endpoints make a lot of sense. Like, the endpoint for Kalimdor is either you go all the way up top to Hyjal, or you go all the way down bottom to Oldham. Now, with Chromie time scaling, the story and the quest flow still kind of points you in those directions, but really, you could follow a quest flow that takes you a totally different direction, and I think that's cool, but something has been lost with this scaling.
Game that's tried it has found out, especially in PvP. You can take away their gear, you can take away their levels, you can take away their hit points, you can even take away some of their abilities. You cannot take away the years of skill that player's earned. And in pretty much every game, World of Warcraft's a good example, the skill you've gained over 4 years is infinitely more valuable than all of that was taken away. And then you've accentuated the problem because you've now put an absolute, barbarian of a player who is fully clued in on everything in with these absolute noobs, and he is trashing them.
So that's an interesting point he made at the end there. So if you take it all away, and like you had no gear, no scaling, I think they did this in Warlords of Draenor, right? Gear and resources and stuff, that's part of the MMORPG experience. You can't have this pure PvP skill-only experience in MMORPGs. If you're going to do that, you just play the PvP game like a shooter, and you don't need the MMORPG part, right? If you're playing the MMORPG, you're submitting that, yes, I want to have equipment, I want to have options, I want to have my character possibly be better or worse in different situations. Yeah, so this was a really, really interesting video. I like I said, watched 2 minutes of it and I knew I would have a lot to say. So hopefully it was an interesting take.